1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters don't move. Whatever.
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to Life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down! Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. Yeah, that's me going crazy right there on that intro, man. And if you want to get that song, it's available only on a 10-song EP, available straight from me, only by digital download, man. Cashapp, PayPal, or Zelle me $20. Hit me up on my email, 16tolifemusic@gmail.com, and I'll get it to you ASAP, man. Now let's hop right up into this video. So, TMZ has been able to secure and release actual footage of Tory Lanez when he got assaulted and stabbed in prison. Like I told you guys in my last video, nowadays most prisons have cameras throughout the prison. They have cameras in the day room. They have cameras recording what goes on the yard. So anytime there's an assault or whatever, you know, they have video of it and they're able to go back and see exactly what it is, what happened. Now in my last video, I was breaking down a phone call that the attacker of Tory Lanez had made, and in it he said some things that to me were questionable, at least, and probably a lie. And so now this video does confirm some of those things. And so anyway, man, without further ado, let's get right into this video. I'm gonna break it down for y'all. Let's get it. Now, unfortunately, due to YouTube's policy against showing violence, at some point during the video, when he actually starts attacking Tory, I'm going to have to put something above the screen. I'm going to leave the video playing here myself so I can see it, so I can try to break it down and give you guys a play-by-play report of what I see. Another thing that's going to kind of mess the video up is there's a big circle on the video. So now what that is that is a mirror that's fixed somewhere to the ceiling on the top tier. And so what that mirror allows the guard who is further back and he's in the tower, he's looking at the mirror. That mirror allows him to see things that's close and down up under him that he may not be able to see due to his angle being so elevated. Unfortunately for us, that mirror just happens to be where the attack takes place, and it obstructs a lot of what's going on. Now, I don't know how many of you guys may have saw or remember the last video that I put up concerning this matter, when you had Satino Casillo, the dude who is accused of stabbing Tory Lanez. He called in and he gave his version. So I'm going to try to match up this video to the things that he said and see how much they match up. Now, let's keep in mind that Satino Casillo originally went to jail for the murder of his 13-year-old girlfriend. He shot her in the face with a shotgun. So let's just remember and keep in mind the type of individual that we're dealing with. Now, during that call, he said something to the effect of him and Tory had a conversation before this all took place right outside of his cell. Now, we don't see that in this video, but there's no telling what took place outside of this angle or how much of the video was cut off before the initial attack started. So that possibly could have happened, right? So this video pretty much begins with Tory Lanez walking down the top tier of whatever building he's in, and he appears to stop at somebody's cell and start talking. Now, I have watched this video at least 15 to 20 times, right? And I could not make out if later on when the attack starts, if the individual who attacked Tory Lanez came out of the same cell that Tory had stopped and was talking to, or he came down from a further cell. It appears to me as the individual came from a cell that was next door to the ones that Tory Lanez came from. So we have him in the doorway. He's leaning up there. He's talking. Now you remember at some point in that video too, the dude Santino Casillo, he told a couple of different versions in the same story. At one point he says when Tory Lanez comes down to talk to him when it's around breakfast, he's talking to him and he appears to go in his pocket and show him something that he believed to be a weapon. Then he said he also looked back and was smirking at his boys, which indicates that he had a couple of dudes with him going to chow. Then later on in that video, he went on to say, well, it was nobody out there but me and Tory. And that was something that I said was extremely odd and strange to me, because I know just from doing time that when they let people out in the morning or in the afternoon to go to breakfast, they just don't let out a cell or two. So for whatever reason, I don't know what made him feel that it was necessary for him to lie about things like that. But in this video, you clearly can see that they're releasing for chow and there's other individuals out there on that tier. The way they're going down those steps and coming back, it leads me to believe that they have brought the food to the door and they're just going down there to pick the food up. So now, see, unfortunately, as Tory leaves the door, he walks further to the right. He walks a little bit away from where he initially was. And then once again, this mirror is obstructing everything. So he's standing behind the mirror. He's standing behind the mirror. Now, you can see somebody, I just paused it again. You can see somebody coming up the steps like he had just went down and retrieved his breakfast. Now, also in that mirror, I can't quite make it out 100%, but the reflection appears to be somebody dressed in a guard's uniform, because it seems like I can almost make out the tan and green pants that they're wearing. Now, as this dude is walking up the tier, slightly below that mirror, it appears somebody has came out of the cell. It looks like they have on sweatpants and tennis shoes or something like that. Now, the dude is carrying a tray who has just came up the tier. Now, he is looking back. The attack has started, so I'll probably have to stop the video right there, and I'll probably have to put something up so you guys can't see that attack. I'm going to continue to run it here and then cover the screen up with somebody. And it also appears to me that he is clearly a black prisoner. He glances back at whatever's going on, and he clearly sees it because he's right there. The attack has started, but he decides to keep on walking. Now, it seems like Santino Casillo, it seems like he hit Tory Lanez about 3 times, and Tory Lanez immediately falls on his back and he starts kicking with his feet. He starts kicking in an upward motion, trying to get his attacker off of him. He's kicking again. He's steady continuing to kick. Now, at this point, it still seems like Santino is on his feet and he's coming down in a downward motion. Now, Tory Lanez is still kicking. I muted the sound. When I had the sound up, you could clearly and faintly hear somebody hollering, help, help, help. So it definitely appears that at some point in time, Tory Lanez became frightened and he started yelling for help. Now, at this point, Tory Lanez, who was literally on his back with his back on the floor, he has now rose up. And he's came up off the floor, but he's still in a seated position. And he has, it appears, Santino to the right of his body coming down on him in a downward motion. So now as I'm going, okay, so now at this point, it looks like Santino has dropped down. Either he's on all fours or he's dropped down lower, and he's really, he's on Tory Lanez pretty tough, man. He's really trying to give it to him. Now, it looks like he's holding him with one hand and he's hitting him with the other hand. So he's on him again. He's on him. That mirror is kind of in my way. I can't see, but he's hitting him. He's hitting him again. Now, okay, at some point, Tory Lanez gets up. He grabs the railing, and in some type of way, his shirt has came half off, and he runs and he runs and he escapes down the railing. Now, like I said, that dude, Santino, man, he was on that dude. He was coming down with a very powerful, hard, strong downward motion. Now, in the course of that phone interview, the lady asked him, were you trying to kill him? And he said, no, absolutely not, or something along those lines. Well, he definitely definitely was trying to kill Tory Lanez, right? He stabbed him 14 times, and you can just tell by watching this video the power in which he was using to strike Tory Lanez. He definitely was trying to take Tory Lanez's win. Now, some people may ask, well, okay, chill, if he stabbed him 14 times and he was trying to take his win, why didn't he take his win? Why didn't he unalive Tory Lanez? Well, let's keep in mind that he did manage to collapse two of his lungs, right? And so I think a lot of individuals who have never been to prison, when they hear the word knife, the first thing that comes to mind is a street knife or a kitchen knife. But sometimes in prison, knives are not necessarily killing machines. Sometimes they won't even be considered a knife. They would be more like a stabbing instrument. You know, it all depends on who makes the knife. It all depends on what material they use to make the knife. And it all depends on how well they are at making knives. You know, knives in prison are made of many things. You know, you can make a knife out of a plastic toothbrush, a plastic cup, metal, steel. It just all depends on what a person gets his hands on. And then once again, how adept he is at making a knife. Making a prison knife is a tedious, meticulous job, and you definitely have to have a skill. I was never the greatest knife maker in prison, right? It takes a lot of time, you know. So when you get a knife, right, depending on what type of metal or what type of material you are making that knife out of, right? The knife may be dull, right? Let's just say the knife might happen to be dull like this pen. And then you'll have to get down and, you know, sharpen the knife. Sometimes you might have to sharpen it on the floor. A lot of times people use their cell floor because they can have the privacy of their cell. You know, I've even seen dudes outside on the concrete sitting by buildings trying to sharpen a knife. And that's a long process because as you get one side sharp, then you have to turn around. You try to have to get the other side sharp. And sometimes, you know, you may get one side a little more curvier than the other, and the knife is not straight. And sometimes, you know, sharpening the knife, depending on how big and how thick it is, that might take a week or two, you know, until you get it to a fine point, to the point where it is something that's going to take somebody's life. So I've seen people make knives out of nails, out of pins. I've definitely seen a lot of knives that you can look at it and see, okay, that knife is not going to kill anybody, right? So who knows how deadly the weapon was that he had, right? And obviously it was not that deadly, or in my opinion, Tory Lanez would have not been here. I mean, anybody who stabs somebody 14 times, I think it's fair to say that you're trying to kill that person, right? I believe the most deadliest knife that I ever seen, believe it or not, was on a level 2. I happened to be at Corcoran. It happened to be an individual who had a job in an area which was known as work exchange. And in order to get through work exchange, you had to leave the initial prison compound and you had to walk through these gates, and they had metal detectors, so on and so forth. They had a lot of different trades and classes back there. Now, this individual, he happened to work in a welding class. That's right, a welding class in prison. So, you know, those dudes back there, they had machinery and all the necessary tools to make some of the most deadliest knives that I've ever seen. Now, once again, let's go back to Santino Cassio saying that it was nobody out on the tier but him and Tory. It's plenty people walking past that tier, right? There was at least 2 or 3 guys just in this camera angle walking past that attack. There happened to be what appeared to me was an older white man walking up the steps, coming back with his breakfast tray in his hand. Once he got possibly within 3 or 4 steps of the attack, he looked up and realized what was going on. He quickly made a U-turn and hauled it right back down those stairs. And once again, this individual in the reflection, who appears to be a correctional officer, does not move from the spot that he is in even before the attack started. So whoever is that person that's sitting right there, they clearly saw the incident. Let's keep in mind too, like I said earlier, that Tory Lanez definitely was yelling pretty loud, and whoever that individual is in that mirror definitely was close enough to hear all this and probably see it all as well. None of the guards intervened. Nobody ran up there and tried to pull out any mace or pull batons. So it was basically, in that situation, it was every man for himself. Tory eventually was able to get away and take off running down the steps. I know in that phone call, the dude mentioned that he grabbed Tory and told him, look at me in the eyes. And it's hard to see if any of that happened, right? He also said that he kicked Tory in the butt as he scampered down the steps or something along those lines. And that definitely does not look like it happened. As I was looking at a couple of other YouTube videos related to this stabbing, I seen some people leaving similar comments saying that they don't even believe that any of this is true, because they were saying that if the guy did stab Tory Lanez, he would be in the hole, and how is he able now to make a phone call? And plus, you don't even hear that recording that when you do make a phone call from prison, lets people know that, you know, this is a recorded conversation from the prison. So only thing I can say to that, right, is prison is extremely different since I left prison. You know, they now give out tablets. People can make calls, even though those tablets do have those messages on them. Things are very different now. You know, you can get caught with a knife, to my understanding, and be right back out of the hole in a week's time. Also, I have been in the hole before where an individual did have a cell phone and managed to get his cell phone back there in the hole. I don't believe that the individual who did manage to get his cell phone back there in the hole, which I believe he had it on his person somewhere in his pants, right? And somehow he was able to hide it and slip it in his boxers, and ultimately made it back there to the hole. That particular cell that we were in back there, they didn't have any electricity, right? So now I don't necessarily see an individual who is in the hole with a cell phone with no charger is going to let other people use his cell phone, because of course then that's going to run down his battery quicker. But you know, each place is different. It's been years and years and years since I've been in prison in the hole, so who knows what they got going on now. Anyway, you already know what time it is. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.